Because of the digital culture, young people are giving up too easily. There is a pressure that is constantly coming from the digital platforms. I'm doing just well in school, I'm yet to graduate, but I'm seeing somebody who is maybe 2 years younger than me, he's already graduated. Before now, there was no digital. You are running your own ways until when you finish. Everybody is on their own. I think we have to be deliberate about letting our kids fail in certain things.
Especially in this day and age of parenting.
Yes! When we say entrepreneurial thinking or founder's mindset, it doesn't mean every child must be an entrepreneur.
No.
But even in your career, you must be entrepreneurial because you are selling your skills.
Yes.
So you must know how to apply the same mindset that a founder would have when building from zero, from when there was nothing into a large entity. I think that the topics that we should be looking for first and foremost is actual creative mindedness.
Welcome to Reframe with Jadesola, and I'm excited to have with me today here Ayo Bankole Akintujoye.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So, who are you?
I have many parts, but I like to simplify who I am by just saying that I'm a father, I'm a strategy consultant. I work with many businesses to lead transformation projects, market expansion projects, process engineering, financial advisory, M&A. Do a lot of M&A advisory. I'm also very passionate about family. I run a community of small businesses of about 10,000 SMEs. Under that umbrella, we organize the Caribbean SME Bootcamp. We organize the Caribbean SME Fellowship Program, which is ongoing. We also recently launched the Failures Diaries podcast for entrepreneurs to share their stories of failure, of challenges, so that others can learn from it and not give up easily. But the core work that we do is the Caribbean consulting work, which is the strategy work. We also recently launched a tech platform. It's called Federal Cash that supports SMEs with invoice discounting solutions and cooperative.
So, why are SMEs so important to you?
Yeah, so because I was raised by, I was schooled and raised by my mom's small business.
Okay.
She always had a side hustle, but she was a career woman. And, she then retired and invested money in my dad's business. My dad died with everything. So the SME was essentially the survival strategy that ensured that I did not end up on the streets. So I saw her consistently, painstakingly account for that business, take notes, track our expenses, track our receivables. So I knew that, and I mean, here I am now. So there's a multiplier effect of that singular effort that she's putting. So I know that if we're able to support a lot more small businesses like that, there will be a multiplier effect on the economy, because just one child who is raised by a small business owner, the organizer at the junction there, if he has a child in school that he raises with that guy is most likely going to take that entire generation out of poverty.
Exactly.
So that's exactly why we do what we do.
Okay.
And, the impact is also very motivating.
Even from an economic perspective, for us as a nation, I think SMEs account for, is it up to 70 or 90% even?
Of the jobs. So it's 48% of GDP and 86% of the jobs.
Exactly.
Yeah, contribute 86% of the total jobs in the economy. And it's not only Nigeria, it's peculiar to the global south. Globally, generally, but more overwhelmingly in the global south.
Why do you think that is?
Because there is a high rate of unemployment. There is also a shortfall of large corporates. To put things in perspective, Dangote is the largest singular employer. He employs just about 20,000 people in his entire group. The entire banking sector hires the next set as a group, and all of them, hire less than 200,000 together. Wow. Now, again, into perspective, when you benchmark that with America, for example, Amazon alone hires over 1.1 million people. That's just one company. So we don't have those types of large employers. We've not been able to nurture our businesses to grow at that scale. So, and if that is the case, then our only hope is the SME space that hires the majority in the population.
So I guess, your passion is in supporting that, sector. Because as you said, there is a multiplier effect.
Yes.
Not just on the nation as a whole, on families, and even across the value chain, really, that supports SMEs in general.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the results are always astounding. If only just maybe 10 businesses migrate from small to a large enterprise by the parameters that define those things, it has a direct effect, hit on the GDP. You know, so just imagine a manufacturing company gets injection and increases production 100x. That's directly on the GDP because, you know, and then thousands of people will be employed, all those kind of things. So that's why our passion is there. But most of our work in the consulting business is for medium and large firms. But our work with our foundation is mostly for SMEs.
I always like to go back to a sort of origin story. We've already spoken about how the impact of your mom, you know, business impacted you. But, you know, as always, what did you want to be when you were a kid? They would always ask, what do you want to be when you grew up?
When I was a child, I wanted to be a lawyer.
Okay.
You know, my parents never wanted me to be a lawyer.
Oh, really? That's shocking.
Yeah, because, I mean, they had two relatives, one close cousin who had been shot. This was the military era. So there was a volatile period for lawyers. You know, most of them from our family were activists. I think,
because you kind of give those activist vibes.
Yeah, exactly. I think, and I was an activist child. I think Jennifer Emi was also a distant relative of my people. So that was a time when they were getting shot. They were out in and out of jail.
Yeah.
So it wasn't attractive to my mother. The only thing she understood about law was activism. So strangely and interestingly, I failed literature in my WAEC, and it was very strange because I have a passion for reading. I read all the literature books. I was always in class. So it didn't make sense that I failed it. But I didn't even bother with trying. So I just moved on from law, and that was the end of it. But I didn't also realize what I wanted to do, or I didn't come to the realization of wanting to do strategy as a profession until I think 300 level or 200 level in the university. And I was in this student organization called ISEC. It's a global youth organization, student organization. And that was where I came in contact with strategy planning as a profession and the tools and all that. I said, no, this is what I need to do.
So did you do that straight off the back then when you now finished?
Okay, so yeah, there was a bit of it. So I first started with tax in KPMG. In fact, before KPMG, I was in SAP. I was with an SAP reseller company doing process consulting. SAP is the world's largest ERP company. So usually they have a lot of consulting firms who help to redesign processes for companies to make them SAP ready. And that was what I was doing. Then afterwards, I got into KPMG, started working the tax practice before I then migrated fully to strategy. So all the while in those places, I was still actively focused on pursuing a career in strategy. I was applying. I kept my eye on the ball. So
that bug never really left you.
I kept my eye on the ball. And in fact, I did start my career twice. And I tell a lot of young people that once you are focused, once you know what you want to do, if you're lucky enough to know what you want to do on time, if you are not afraid to refresh, the overall experience is going to build up eventually. So as a strategy person now, that experience in SAP is extremely important to my career today. You know, that's technology transformation, understanding technology, the trainings I did, the certifications, then my experience also in tax and, you know, accounting and the audit engagements I did. They're incredibly profound to what I do today.
I think it's important to highlight that because a lot of young people feel that what I do today is, you know, particularly when it comes to first jobs. Well, it's not really exactly what I want to. I always say no experience is lost. No skill that you've acquired is ever lost. And I always tell this story. I remember, so my background started in the pharma industry. I'm a pharmacist, of course.
Can you be worse a pharmacist?
Well, I always say that I don't want to, you know, misrepresent myself. So I always couch that.
You're just not a practicing pharmacist.
Exactly, yes. I'm a non-practicing pharmacist. And I worked in industry, but years later, when I ended up in a part of pharmacy that I didn't even desire, which was retail pharmacy, I owned my own pharmacies when I lived in Canada. And the skills and experience I developed from that were so transferable. And I developed an SOP for my store. So from turning on the lights, that, these are the vendors. When the inspectors came from the Pharmacy Council then in Canada, and I gave them they said, oh, who developed this? I said, I did. But that concept of SOP, I got from when I worked in GSK, when you're doing SOP for manufacturing, SOP
and
for
mandated to do all of those.
Exactly. So I always tell them that no experience is lost.
And that was the retail
that was retail, which was
that
completely
was,
unrelated, but I was able to take from that. So I think it's important to highlight that those skills, those experiences, don't despise the
very
days of
crucial.
small beginnings. It all adds
Very,
up
very
and
crucial.
shows up somewhere later on that you don't even expect.
Even if it's an unpaid internship,
Exactly.
it sticks with you because nobody's going to remove it from your head.
Which is what I say to people, because we get a lot of young people who come here for internship begrudgingly. Maybe their parents are like, enough watching TV, just come somewhere. Come somewhere for the day. And you can see them when they first come, they're grumbling, they're whatever. I'm like, any experience, you cannot, You
have to immerse yourself into it and ensure that you take out whatever it is, no matter how little. In fact, many times you realize it wasn't so little.
Right.
Later in life.
Later. That's always the thing.
Yeah, you realize that this experience wasn't. Just a few days ago, I was talking about a job that I did at some point in my life, which I consider as one of the lowest moments. And I was describing it to an audience, and at that time, when I was describing it to that audience, it elicited a standing ovation and a round of applause.
Can you imagine?
And at the time I was doing that job,
you thought your life was...
My life, to me, was wasted.
At that time, it was punishment. God,
but that experience was so instructive by the time I was sharing it, because we were talking about the Nigerian immigration policies and economy and international trade and all those things. You realize that people are so very naive about immigration policies. I mean, our own domestic immigration policies, how you get expatriates, the relationship with consultants. And I'm talking about actual business leaders and policymakers sharing beer parlor analysis over it, And then I stood up and I said, look, I've been an immigration consultant, first and foremost, and not a street one. I was in KPMG doing immigration. So forget the bribery issue. We're not bribed, right? And I gave a bit by bit of how that thing works, the dynamics. And everybody was wild that, oh, really? And at the time, I was not interested because I wanted to do strategy. I'm like, what am I doing here? And my boss at that time, Sister Nix, amazing woman. She's the best boss I've ever worked with in my entire life. And I think it's also important that bosses who you would work with as a young person is more important than the work you're even doing.
Honestly, absolutely. I think it's important to highlight that, because in the positive and the negative, because it could make or break
because you can even be in a good job that you really like and you can work with a terrible boss that would make you say, no, I don't want to do this thing again.
Right. And derail the trajectory of your career. Completely. I think that's really important. You mentioned something that you started a podcast, the Failure
Diaries.
Why did you want to do that? Especially in a culture where failure is not appreciated or encouraged, even from school, actually. So I wanted you to talk about that first, and then I wanted to track it back to school, parenting, and education.
That's a very good question. That's exactly why, first and foremost, what you just described, that the culture does not celebrate as much failure. And I think it's a largely global phenomenon. It's not only in Nigeria. But, so I'm a very hands-on father, and I interact a lot with my son and his friends and young people generally. I'm always in one institution or the other talking to young people, and I realized that because of the digital culture, young people are giving up too easily.
The resilience is not there.
Is fading very fast because there is a pressure that is constantly coming from digital platforms. So I'm doing just well in school, I'm yet to graduate, but I'm seeing somebody who is maybe 2 years younger than me. He's already Before now, there was no digital. You are running your own ways until when you finish. Everybody's on their own, But because there's now digital, young people are even interacting via games. They know each other's profiles. They know what they are doing. Before you know it, that pressure is building up. And you don't know that the person that you are pressuring yourself about is only putting so much online for you to see.
It's curated.
Exactly. There's a lot of failure stories behind how that person got there. I mean, we're on this podcast and I'm smiling, I'm speaking English. Nobody saw how drained I look when I got here. So we're constantly celebrating capital raises, revenue,
Series A, Series B, Series
profits, and all of those things. So a lot of young people who are doing just fine, but because of hiccups here and there in their careers, they think, oh God, is it that God is also not on my side? So we thought that let me bring another side to this success story. Let people know that this person I'm looking for up to is gone through worse. So if he has gone through worse, I can transform. I can also get there. And we're not only looking for people who are even doing well. We're also looking for average professionals.
Yes.
You know,
not the popular mainstream people.
Yeah, we had a guest who doing well. She's a professional. I think she's the CEO of one of the pharmacy companies. And she shared her childhood experience of how she was abused, you know, and how that then reshaped how she raises her kids. You know, she has 3 daughters now.
Yes.
You know, so it's not just about career entrepreneurshship, it's just about life.
Life in general.
Exactly.
Oh,
you know,
I love that. So it's really the sharing the setbacks and that its failure is not fatal.
It's not fatal.
Yeah.
It's not. In fact, it is. If you have not failed, I don't think you can achieve any success at anything.
But you know, even in the entrepreneurial world, as you mentioned, so when you're talking about failure, some VCs or funders will not support you if you haven't shared your, if you haven't failed or shared your failure story. Yes.
Yeah. You know.
Because they feel you haven't learned and you don't have resilience.
This guy cannot be resilient.
Exactly. So how do we translate that in parenting?
Fantastic. I think we have to be deliberate about letting our kids fail in certain things.
Especially in this day and age of parenting.
Yes.
Because kids are couched.
There are light bulb moments of learning for children that we translate into punishment because it's failure. I always tell my kids teachers that if he doesn't do well in something, or if he insists on not doing something, you need to understand his thought pattern. And if he's not doing as well as some of his friends, he comes to me and tells me, oh, this person is doing this, oh, that person is doing this. And I then sit him down and say, look, young man, you are not going to be able to achieve everything that you want to achieve. And you must not constantly benchmark yourself with somebody else.
Exactly.
Because your journey is different, you know. And I ask him, okay, when were you born? Where were you born? Who raised you? Where did you start school? Where are you schooling now? This other person, has that journey been exactly like yours? He said no. So this person, do you think you're better off than this person? At times he says, I think so. Then this other person, is he better than you? Meaning that that's the way life will always be.
Yes.
You would always be better than some will be better than you, some are in different areas. It doesn't mean they are all around better, you know. And you would always fail at certain things, but you must always apply your best either way.
Right.
Because that's the ultimate yardstick that will stay with you.
Exactly.
Okay, did I even try my best? If it didn't work, I know that, okay, it wasn't meant to be. And then I refresh again. You know, and I think that is important, especially for instructors, educators. I think that the sophisticated schools are, you know, embedding these, but there's still a lot of traditional, because I always like to do reality check so that we don't begin to live in the bubble that those of us who can afford decent schools mean that the majority of the populace are now in that. So I think that education policymakers, we must make it as at scale, you know, instilling in our kids, because if you are born in the global south, you are already designed to experience multiple points of failure.
Exactly. And I think that's important also, and that's not that you're deliberately and intentionally trying to fail, that's my goal, but that failure does come. As we said, it's not fatal. And even as you said with the educator, it's not to be demonized and stigmatized, actually. You know, just because you fail today doesn't mean you're a failure for the rest of your life. But, you know, people have been labeled for life. And that mindset has translated into adulthood and how they actually see themselves.
And the outlook on life, yeah.
So I think, you know, for our educators and our parents, and you've worked with founders and you're doing a podcast on that, what is the common mistake that you feel that businesses, you know, do and you think parents also make, especially when they're trying to engineer success for their kids?
So I think that the first mistake, well, not in any order of priority, but the first that I've seen, you know, and to be honest, it's incredible at times when me and my team are talking and we're trying to remember some other businesses that we work with. It shocks me the extent of the impact of work that we've done in that ecosystem. So I've seen the pattern over and over and over, is that there is a lot of over optimism. There is what I would call wishful thinking. We glamorize success or the idea of it so much that we don't plan or anticipate a worst case scenario.
It's always the best case scenario.
Exactly. You know, and that doesn't mean that you are not optimistic. It just means that you know that life may not always be A, so you put in your best and hope for the best, but also somewhere in a fragment of your head, when you are raising a child, for example, you teach them how to always have a backup plan and say, look, this is what you're going for. You should put your best to get this. But okay, what if it doesn't work? What's your plan? So that children know that if this doesn't work, I'm not going to kill myself.
And it's not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world. Now, it's tricky because there are different types of children, there are different types of backgrounds, because one must not take away that fact. Same way we are raised in different ways, how we're able to, we engineer our brains may be different. But you realize that you engage with a lot of founders, you engage with a lot of entrepreneurs. Everybody wants to build the largest in the world. Everybody wants to build something largest in Africa. It's not even largest in your local government yet. And then somebody gives you money to do business, and because you are trying to look like you're the largest, you start prioritizing vanity metrics.
Yep.
I know people who have raised $1 million or $500,000 from family and friends for starters, and the first thing they are doing is fantastic office in Lekki, with nice restaurant, say they want to attract the best talent. They've not made $1, a kobo. They will now call people like us and say, we're trying to reprocess, we're trying to redesign, we're trying to restructure. And I tell them the truth, strategize what? There's nothing to strategize. There's no strategy. You don't even have
in the first place.
You've not even sold a naira. So what are you strategizing? You need to re-engineer, and that's why I really appreciate, very senior, very advanced entrepreneurs, board members, senior people who are big investors. Still, when they want to do new business, they still do a proper deep dive with external. Yeah, they still call us and say, so that I'm sure that I'm looking at this from the right frame of mind, because the risk is higher as an experienced entrepreneur. When you want to invest in a new area, you realize that many times you are carrying that mindset of your matured enterprise elsewhere into the startup environment.
Yeah.
So you are overestimating, you are thinking in your head, this is a new business, this is my new business, I hire these senior CEOs to manage it, hire this senior person, hire this, do that, set up this place. Meanwhile, it's a startup. Somebody else who is 22 is also starting that same thing, but very lean.
Yeah.
And if anything happens to him, he's able to adjust easily. So we must design our approach to work, our approach to life, our approach to learning from that way that says, I will give my best to this. This is my plan A. This is where I'm heading towards. But I must always have this 5% margin on error and what I would do. You mentioned about process. Process engineering would always tell you that what is your margin of error and what is your risk mitigant if this error crystallizes for this process. That's the way I live my life. That's why you hardly see things break me, especially from like 4 years ago. When I had certain light bulb moment. For every segment, I move on very quickly. Once it happens, I say, okay, activate the plan B and keep it moving. And I think it helps a lot.
So that resilience and that bounce back ability.
Yes.
My friend Bada calls it that,
I like
okay,
that
it's happened. Yeah, he said it bounce back ability that yes, it's
ability
happened.
to bounce back up.
Yes,
Like
let's learn from it and let's move on, which is the approach I always share with my children as well. Like you said, you've tried your best, you've put in your best. I think that in itself should be what, anchors you. Okay, so if schools were to teach founder thinking, you that you've worked with a lot of people, what subjects or habits do you think, or do you expect them to embed?
In fact, now that you mentioned it, maybe that name is what I should call what we're trying to do. But anyway, I've been thinking hard about introducing entrepreneurial mindsets as part of our foundation work in schools.
In schools, yeah.
Late primary school and secondary. We first need to understand that when we say entrepreneurial thinking or founder's mindset, it doesn't mean every child must be an entrepreneur.
No.
Because we're not all going to be entrepreneurs.
And I think we should even qualify that it's not just the mindset of I'm buying and selling.
Exactly. That's where I'm going. That it doesn't mean that you must be a businessman or a trader. But even in your career, you must be entrepreneurial because you are selling your skills.
Yes.
So you must know how to apply the same mindset that a founder would have when building from zero, from when there was nothing into a large entity, you must also have it in career building, because you must be able to say, I'm starting this my career now, I'm on ground zero, or I've gotten this new job from day zero, and I want to be committed to building this portfolio that I have, this job I've been given, to a point where I become the biggest possible person in this organization. Everybody knows that this guy solves problems. So I think that the topics that we should be looking for first and foremost is actual creative mindedness. You know, the creator mindset in a child, how to understand that it would not always be there. It's not every time you, especially children who are privileged, you're already used to things getting fixed. You know, it's always there. You want lunch, there's lunch. You want this, there's a driver taking you to school, there's school bus, you know. So it's important that we instill the mindset that it will not always be there.
So it's really a problem-solving mindset.
Oh, yes, it's a problem-solving mindset that, look, there would always be a time where you have to create something out of nothing. And if you carry that mindset everywhere you go, you would always be a problem solver. So when somebody gives you a job to do, you are not there to go and complain that, but this one is not there, that one is not there. You are thinking
just highlighting the problems but not bringing any solution.
A lot of people do that.
Whining.
You know, oh my God. You know, when we are doing transformation project, we do diagnostics where we engage different people, and you'll be shocked that, in fact, when I do strategy sessions, part of the ground rules I give, I don't like people, if you are talking, saying management has decided or management said. Who is management? I don't like that word management, because people who are members of management will still be telling you that management said as an excuse, you know, because they are perpetual whiners. There are people who are whiners, and it starts as from childhood. You know, so I think that on the one side. Then I think that another very profound part is the ability to leverage people. To manage, when I say leverage, to build relationships sustainably, that is not transactional, to nurture those relationships, then to master how to leverage those relationships and how to work with teams. You know, the way early education works many times is your race. You are working on your own. You are studying on your own. You are laying on your own.
A lot of it is centered around you.
Even your results, they are comparing you with others. So
that team activity is not there.
It's hardly there. The world is not going to be like that. It's extremely important in designing that founder thinking to look at how can we infuse team cohesion type of curriculum or engagement or activities.
So a lot of that will come through project-based learning.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Project-based learning. So, you know, is that a project that you're doing in teams? How do you ensure or design it in a way that you measure for that collaboration? Yeah, you know, and all of that. And you then also design the messages so that they know what you're trying to make them learn out of it.
Exactly. I think so. That's what I love about STEM education, actually, because a lot of it is problem-based learning. You know, you're working with a partner or in a team. You know, there's that angle you said in terms of working with someone. There's a solution that we're trying to get to around this project. We have to work together. We have to be creative, you know, in trying to come up with a solution for us to have an end product of sorts. So that communication, collaboration, the creative thinking and problem solving that you speak about has to happen around that.
Exactly.
And I think that's the beauty and what drew me to STEM education, in that moving away from that isolation, rote learning to really more project-based, you know, and you're developing those soft skills, which we've never really counted as important. It's just, let me just cram and
I think STEM education is very crucial. I think everybody should be involved in STEM at some point.
I think so. It's not just the scientist that should learn STEM. Everybody needs that exposure, because those skills are transferable, whether you're going to STEM career or not.
They're transferable everywhere. You know, they are the same principles. Because the thing is that as creators or in the arts environment, it's more individualistic.
Yes, it is.
As a creator, you want your alone time. You have your muse that's, you know, but in the sciences or technology and all that, is a bit more team-based, project-based.
Project-based,
So I completely agree with you that project thinking has to be immersed in, in our young people.
So how do you see, you were talking about these entrepreneurial programs in schools, or I'm sure you're still thinking through it. What are some of your sort of impact metrics? What do you think that would be a measurable impact matrix of such a program?
Okay, so that's going to be tough. We're going to have to design what we want to see, because usually, early education impact is not really seen until in terms of outcome. The output is usually, okay, you graduated, did you pass, did you not pass? But that's really not what education is about. It's about the outcome later in life, which is why schools rely heavily on their alumni base, because that's the real measure of their impact in terms of. So even if we're going to do this, long-term impact for us will be, how did the kids turn out in the real world? What did they do? How are they changing in terms of behavior for those who participated against those who did not? Is there a difference? Is there a measurable difference in how they think and their approach to work? And how they generally live a wholesome life. So that's what we will be looking out for. But how to then design that is something that would have to happen as part of the planning process for when we want to commence. But right now, it's not even. It's just in our head. But maybe when we are able to access 1 or 2 grants, we can do it, because resourcing, we're already doing too much. It's a lot of things that we're doing.
So that may be at school, but how do you think parents can do that in the home setting? Practically model that entrepreneurial mindset at home. And again, let's qualify that it's not necessarily that, you now go and start your own business, but the applicability in life in itself in general.
So for home, I think it's tougher at home, because I believe strongly in teaching by doing.
Yeah.
So if the parent himself or herself is not already in that way, what are you going to teach?
True.
So
teach what you don't know.
Yeah, so it starts from even the parent being like that. What is then the solution for that is that parents need to know that once you start having children, it's no longer you anymore. It goes beyond you. There are certain exposures you now need to have.
And skills you need to go and acquire.
Yes, just for the sake of the children that you have. So it's not about you being the parent, you do whatever I say you do. No, there are certain skills that you need to acquire to help you govern or engineer your children to think in a certain way along all of these things that we've said. So you yourself, you need to be a part of a cluster, a group, to help better your entrepreneurial thinking, certain problem solving, certain culture change that you need to go through. Then you can begin to then transfer those type of skills, organize it in your child, maybe organize certain play dates that are group based, all those kind of things, so that it helps with cohesion. Amongst others, when the child is eventually on his own, he is able to work with people, but if you yourself don't even know how to do it, it's tough.
I feel that we probably saw a lot of that growing up. I mean, I'll speak for myself, and as you had mentioned as well, that seeing that mindset even in our parents.
Yes, it helps a lot.
Yes, and how that translated. So like you, my mom also, even though she was a stay-at-home mom, she always had a side hustle or a business.
She was always up to something.
She was always up to something. And even, in those days watching her, so the business she was in, they used to go and buy lace from Austria, gold from Italy and things like that, and come back home and sell. And I remember then, she used to say that, at 40 days, my auntie was home. We were transferred to my auntie immediately because she needed to travel to, so you saw that hard work, you saw that problem solving, and even how they coped with foreign Oyinbo food. So my aunts would have fried their own that they would have taken with them and eating it with,
And you begin to pick all these things.
Yes. And so they problem solve for food.
Yes.
And being in foreign lands. Yeah, resourcefulness, exactly.
Yeah, resourcefulness.
Yes.
That thing, resourcefulness. People think it's big, being able to. No, just little things here and there. Some people are just not resourceful. Okay, there's an issue here. This socket is not working. Okay, so
what are the options?
So have you found somebody? You're waiting for your boss. Okay, there's something here. What's causing the delay? Because something.
But we're seeing that in the workplace and the frustration of business owners in terms of the quality of people that
the frustration is ridiculous.
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
So as we round up, I wanted to ask you, how do you define legacy now? Or how are you building yours, both professionally and at home?
So all these hard plenty things I'm doing is how I'm trying to build a legacy. My father died early, so I've always said that I want to die empty. My biggest fear used to be dying young or dying early, but it stopped being my fear now because I just make myself prepared for any time God has said that I'm going to die. So I just make sure that I'm trying to make sure that, if anything happens to me on any day, there would be a legacy that my little boy can grow into. And people will say, oh, it was your dad. Oh, that's great. I'm happy to help you. Your dad was a great dad. I think that's what the legacy should be. And how many people can say that, oh, because I came in contact with this guy, my life has been better. I just talked about my first boss now. How many other people can say they've built their careers or their jobs or their businesses because they interacted, they've improved it because they interacted
contact with this person?
Yes, exactly. So for me, that's what the legacy is. When I go to places, I see people say, "Oh, I met you in something. Oh, I listened to this. Oh, I watched you. Yeah, and because of that, it changed my life." Somebody messaged me on Twitter recently. I don't even know where. Those are the kind of things that brings me a lot of fulfillment and purpose, and that's the legacy that I think. Because many times you realize that money or income competes with your legacy. And a lot of times people leave legacy and follow the money. It depends on what drives you. None of them. If money drives you more, please, all well and good. But at times, what would help you build a legacy may come in competition with money. So you have to be a lot more strategic to say, okay, yeah, I want to make money, but what makes me fulfilled? Which is why it has to be crystal clear around
Purpose.
What legacy really is.
Yeah. Because people associate legacy with money a lot, actually. That's
exactly
the legacy of my name on one building, or
it's not
the
just
legacy
that.
of the money he made. That is what I want to be remembered for. As opposed to maybe the impact and influence.
Exactly.
And lives transform.
The impact, the influence.
Of course, it's possible to have both, but like you said, what is your driving force?
That is the ultimate.
Yes, it's important. But funny you should say that in terms of what you were talking about. For me, over the last few days, I came across, I'm a person of faith, I came across Ecclesiastes 8:8, and it says, as no one has power over the wind to contain it, so no one has power over the time of their death.
Yeah.
As no one is discharged in time of war, so wickedness will not release it from who practices it. I've read it in so many different versions. And it's not as if I never knew that, but it was just, the realization. It was almost liberating and freeing, actually, that it really is out of my hands. So make your life count.
It's out of your hands.
Whatever it is that you're doing or whatever it is that has held you in fear, you're just wasting time and your life. You have no control over it. So what you have control over is what you're doing in the then and now. My personal motto is cap DM, seize the day.
I absolutely like that verse that you just read, because you can't really control the time of your life, the time in terms of the length of time that you stay, but you can control the life that you put into the time that you have here.
Yes.
And it's extremely important. But again, it also requires a degree of depth in thinking to be able to know that. And that's what a lot of people don't have, because you can also blame some. They are battling with survival.
Sure.
When you're battling with survival, it's ridiculous. When you're battling with survival, it shallows your thinking.
And occupies everything.
Yes. So what has then happened, which is what we are trying to do, is to achieve that mind shift. So what then happens is when people even leave survival mode and they are now comfortable, their mindset's still there.
It's still there. Yeah.
And that's the biggest fear. Or the biggest challenge. So their mindset is still, and that's why you see people keep stealing even when they have billions. What's going on here? Create wealth for others. You already have these billions. Why are you stealing again? But because there is a multiplier effect of survival mindset, new slavery mentality. So we're constantly thinking that we can still be slaves. You can still be slaves. That we forget to create moments of legacy beyond the time that we have to stay on Earth.
Thank you so much, Ayo.
Thank you for having me.
I pray that your legacy of you dying empty
Amen.
will come true.
Amen.
And I'm assured that it will.
Amen. Amen. I'm also hopeful and excited that it will. It will. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.